12 o'clock. Okay, just checking that we are live and that everything is connected. I believe we are. Just have a quick check. Okay, I believe we are good to go. So welcome to another Friday afternoon with me, Farzana from SF Digital. And today I'm going to talk to you about how to manage your content creation and some of the stages you really need to consider as you think about the content that's being output from your business. So let's dive straight in. So what do I actually mean by content creation? Obviously that phrase gets thrown around quite a lot, but what we're actually talking about is anything that is going to be representing your business. So it could be your website, your social media channels, it could be images, video work, anything really that's about you and your business and that you need to collate together. Of course, we have just moved at such a pace now within our businesses and the world that we live in. Our content and how we create that and what is actually seen by our audiences has become crucial, that we actually slow down a little bit, sometimes almost stop, think about what you're putting out there, and then plan everything together so that everything sings about your brand and really comes together in a really cohesive way. I have over recent weeks talked about brand in particular, how to connect with your audiences, a whole range of topics. And actually, if you were to sit through and just look at some of those topic headings, you will see that actually everything hooks onto something else. There is a reason why something is done a particular way. So, as I say, today I'm going to be focusing on content creation and the management of content creation. But just before I move on to my actual slides, just a little reminder that we have got our coaching program underway. We are having new members joining fairly regularly now, so it's really good that we are very happy that we are growing our coaching program, and we would love for others to also connect in and see how this could help you in your business. So at the moment we've got over 300 videos on the program. You will have lifetime access to that content, so you can see some of the titles on your screen right now, right through from how to look after your Google ads, but also just marketing in general and how to use videos, etc. It's all part of the program. As part of the program, you will also be invited to attend any of the 4 coaching calls that you wish to, which we have got staggered at various parts of the day to suit different time zones. And you can find out a lot more information if you go to sfdigital.co/YouTube. So let's get into content creation. So as I said already, that you may need content for various items. Even this video today, this live stream is also basically content. So thought has had to go into when it's going to be planned, how it's going to be output, what we're going to do with it, and so on. So even everything you do for your business is all basically part of your content. So what's the best way to start? And for me, I think the biggest thing that often gets missed is have a plan. Now I'm going to use the example of social media. I think often, especially in this last year, people think that the plan is to regularly put something up on Facebook. And it is actually so easy to do. That is actually the danger, that it is so easy to do, because it's you sit down and dare I say it, probably most of us spend a little bit too much time on our devices, and before you know it, tap tap tap, quick post, job done. Now there's a time and a place for that. There's not a problem with doing the ad hoc posts. It's supposed to be social, and part of the fun is that they are interactive and topical and of the moment. That's absolutely fine. But from a business sense, the first thing you really need to think about is what you're trying to achieve with your post. So I'm going to probably stick to the social media example, but of course this applies to anything that you're doing, any particular content. It could be your website, it could be your blogging, it could be, like I say, the video that this is being created right now. And my apologies, we've just got into a different screen for a moment. Okay, so sorry about that. Okay, we're back here. So before we can get into actually planning, we've actually got to think about what we're trying to achieve. And that boils down, in effect, to strategy. So you've really got to think about, what are we trying to do with our business? So for us, at this moment in time, we are definitely focusing on delivering our services to our clients. But a big part of our activity, certainly for 2021, is looking at growing our coaching program. So that means we've got to plan our output to gear up around what our plan is for our business. So I will talk a little bit more in depth when we come to the individual slides. So who are you planning to attract and engage with? So in summary, the buzzword there is attract. Now, there is no point thinking that as a business, actually, when we ask the question of many businesses, so who is your ideal audience? Who are you trying to sell to? Sometimes, which is always a bit worrying, the answer that comes back is everyone. My product suits everyone. Well, that makes it really, really hard to niche down and focus your activity on a particular group of individuals. Now, unless you're somebody like Amazon, you're unlikely to have everyone as your customer. And so it means that as a smaller business, or even a medium-sized business, believe it or not, there's enough in this world for all of us, and we don't need to attract everyone. We wouldn't know what to do with everyone if we got them anyway. And so by focusing who you're trying to actually work with, then you can start to craft your message and design your output to suit that audience. The next thing to consider is are your channels, i.e. Where does your audience actually hang out? Where will you find them? Now again, thinking about social media, depending on the product that you have or the service that you are offering, you may find that Instagram is the perfect platform for the age group that the audience is, the male-female side of things, what sex they are, whether they are in a social environment or whether it's more business environment. You have all that information, or you should certainly be thinking about that information for your business, so that you can then work out where to place your content to be the most effective. Now, somebody told me something just today which I didn't know whether to laugh or cry, and they were basically telling me how one of their clients has an email list that is over 10,000 people, but their social media platform, I think it was Facebook, they've only got 9 followers on Facebook. So they've got a huge email list of 10,000 plus, and they've got this non-existent following on social media. But what's that company doing? They are sending an email out once a week, because that seems to feel right to them. And they're spending a lot of time and energy to make content for Facebook, and they're posting every single day. I think my friend told me that they've got a total of 9 page likes. So they're spending all this time and energy trying to sit on the wrong channel, the channel of Facebook, to entertain potentially 9 people. And let's face it, with the algorithms the way they are, they're probably not even going to get seen by those 9 people. And yet they're sitting on a gold mine of 10,000, but they choose only to engage once a week. And this is why it's really, really important to think about the channels and the places that your audience is hanging out at, so that you can then gear up your output to match that. Then we come to what type of content suits a particular channel. So we as a business are, for our own output, are constantly reviewing the changing scenario of the platforms and how they're working, how those different channels are using content, and what suits content better on different places. So, for example, our stats were showing us that our videos that we make, which are around 10 minutes long, were absolutely perfect for YouTube. Lots of engagement, lots of likes, lots of interaction. But if we tried to put the same 10-minute video on social media, Facebook and Insta in particular, we just didn't seem to get the connection. It just didn't seem to engage with our audience. So what's the best thing to do? Stop, reevaluate, and look at what you're doing. So now we've got an additional thing that we do with our videos, which is we create 20-second videos and 60-second videos. perfect for the thumb scroll environment where, you know, it needs to stop somebody and engage someone and make them stop and look at your content, but it's short enough to be digested quickly. Interesting, move on. People don't mind doing that. YouTube is a slightly different matter. Normally, YouTubers, visitors are looking at finding a solution to a problem. So they're more likely to use the search function to try and watch a video that will hopefully give them a better explanation of a solution that they're looking for. So think about your own behavior, for example, on YouTube. I know that if I'm looking for, let's say, how to change the screen on my mobile phone, if it's only about a minute long, chances are it's probably not got anything useful in there. It's probably not going to actually show me how to do that. If it's somewhere between 5, 10 minutes long, 12 minutes long, it's probably got something useful. It's long enough to show me how to do something, but not so long that I'm having to sit through a really long video to do something quite simple. And conversely, if it's a really long video, 20 to 30 minutes long, well, unless I've done something really bad to my phone, I probably won't instantly engage with that particular length of video. So it really depends on the solution that you're offering. So think about the type of content that you're putting out there. And also think about when your content should be shared. So this is as much about frequency as it is about the time of day. So this really does come down to planning and organising yourself so that you can decide which content needs to go out when. And this becomes really important when we are doing things like, for example, if you're in a business that is seasonal. So there is no point putting out, messages, for example, selling Mother's Day products, because Mothering Sunday happens to be coming up this weekend in the UK. There's no point doing that next week and saying this would be a great gift for your mum. You've got to plan your content and make sure that it's already lined up. Equally, it is no use putting that content out this week necessarily. It should have been planned at least 2, 3, 4 weeks ago, drip feeding the message that you have products or services that are suitable for an event, so that you've not left it too late. Because now if you try and do that literally today or tomorrow, all you're going to get are the panic merchants, and you probably won't be able to deliver it anyway. So think about how you're going to plan your content. And then finally, which tools you should use to make your content. Now, there are literally hundreds of different tools that you can use to create your content. So let's just talk them through sort of in a step-by-step way. So for example, let's say you need images. How are you going to get them? So the easiest way is obviously use your phone, but that's not always going to be possible to create the right kind of look or the content that you need. Or you may have a particularly difficult product that's really hard to take a picture of, so that's not going to work. Equally, how do you take a picture that's meaningful if you're a service industry? That might be trickier to do. Let's face it, it's particularly tricky at the moment because best will in the world with lockdown in various stages, you can't necessarily access what you need to. You may not be in your workplace, or indeed you may not be able to get the products or the correct props that you need to your home. So at the moment that's a little bit tricky. You may then decide to use a photographer. So I would, being an ex-photographer, you can't really put a value on other people's skill set, and trying to do everything yourself sometimes is actually a false economy. So certainly for the right kind of images, and I call them sort of your hero content assets bag, if you like, or digital file, that's the place to have your real star images done professionally, especially your headshots. That's really, really important. But it could be your key hero shots for your products, let's say. Get those done so that whenever you need them, they are ready for use, all lined up, all correctly color corrected, cropped, whatever may be needed. So there's another way of doing that. Let's talk about actual graphics. Now, I think a lot of people have heard of Canva, which has been around for quite a long time, but it is a fantastic tool to allow you to self-design pieces of content, especially for social media where things are fast-paced and you haven't necessarily got time to wait for things to be designed and returned to you. However, I would strongly urge that just because you can do something is not a reason for why you should do something. And if visual content and designing and having a good eye for colour and balance and design elements, if that's not your thing, I would really encourage you not to use something like Canva, because you can normally tell a mile out that you've grabbed something that's off of the internet and it's not been well executed, and you'll actually damage your brand and your image much more than if you were to pay someone to get it done. And that brings me to actually having graphic designers. So we have a team of 3 at the moment who are pretty much working on different bits of content. There's one who works pretty much on all the general, fairly low level, repetitive kind of content, especially social media cards, etc. That's pretty much a full-time job, just designing all of those. We have someone that's more intermediate, so if there's design work for ourselves, for our clients, it could be a brochure, it could be a PDF, it could be blog headers, whatever it may be that needs a more better eye than just trying to do it yourself. Then there's that person. Then there's the real high level graphic designer who will just create some absolutely beautiful work that is really, really professional, and that person is reserved for that kind of caliber of work when that is needed. So that's on top of our own self ability should we need it. Don't always have time to do anything by myself anymore, but should we need to, obviously we can. Coming from a print background and a photography background, we can use Photoshop and we can use the Adobe Suite products if we need to. So lots and lots of ways of how you can create content yourself. And then how do you actually manage all of this content? And this really does boil down to being super organized. This is about making sure that every piece of content is easily identifiable, easily saved down in a place that you can reach it again when you need to, so that in effect doing a piece of work once means that a work has been done for many times over across your process. And for us, there are many ways of staying organized. Yes, I think I say it very frequently. We use Asana, which allows us to tag members of the team, pass jobs on. Different experts, inverted commas, are able to pick up their role within a job, which allows everything to flow through smoothly and make sure that the job reaches its deadlines as it should do. But also it's even things like organizing your G drive or your hard drive correctly. For us, for example, for every single live video, and we do 5 days a week, so that's 5 videos every single week. Every single video has its own folder. It has a square, a vertical and a horizontal image created because that's going to be needed on different platforms. Every single live video has to be made into a blog. Every single blog needs to have a personalized header. Every single blog also needs to have some images that are pertinent to the actual article. So you can see there's a whole sequence of activity that starts from one activity, today's video. And from there, we are then able to rinse and repeat that many times over to make many bits of content that then keep going on that cycle of content creation and content output and content strategy. And it always goes back to the strategy, because there is no point being a busy fool creating lots and lots of content that is meaningless and doesn't connect with your audience if you don't actually have a plan. And this is why it is so important to have a plan. So strategy. I did talk a little bit about strategy at the beginning, and that for us, as I said, is focusing on a couple of core activities. Now, of course, the joy of having a business, I feel like ours, is that being so involved in our business as a husband and wife team, I love the fact that if we choose to change direction, we are able to do that. Now, literally in the last couple of weeks, some new ideas have come through, and yet again, although we thought we were going to be focusing on our coaching program, which we are very committed to that program, we are also going to be bringing some new things along, and they are bubbling away as we speak and being formulated, and you shall be hearing about those very, very soon, which really are going to be helping small to medium-sized businesses really get a good understanding of strategy and how they go about actually building and growing their business and setting up some systems and how we do that. And as part of strategy is really the key thing, which it always boils down to, is that we need to humanize our interface, especially in this digital world that we live in, and we feel that everything is through social media or websites. How do we engage with our audience and actually bring that to life a little bit more? Because there are dozens of sites out there. How do you make yours stand out? And I had an interesting phrase from a very renowned digital marketer, Ryan Dice, the CEO of that business. Great statement he made, which I really resonated. And we can talk about, what he said was, what you can talk about is B2C, B2B, all these different B2Bs and options, etc. We're actually talking about H to H, human to human. And that really did resonate with me, because you can get very caught up in the system, but actually you start to forget the human element. So strategy is really, really important, and is a topic in its own right, which I won't cover today. Channels, I think I talked about quite length, so I will move on from channels. But just to summarize again, it's just having a good understanding of where your audience hangs out. So for example, some of the work I do, I know that the demographic that attracts tends to be good old-fashioned newspaper. They like to read the local press. So for that particular audience, for some other work that I do, there is a regular article that goes into the local press, and that is to satisfy the needs of that particular audience. Otherwise, I've got no other way of reaching that audience. For others, it might be social media, but within social media, which is the best platform? So if you have a product or a service that can work really well on Pinterest, for example, which can sometimes get overlooked, highly visual, great way of getting engagement and getting those boards going, getting the pins going. Really, really good way of getting extra reach. And the reason I mention slightly, beyond Facebook and Instagram, some of the other platforms, and there are so many, is that you've actually gone to the trouble of making the content once, let's say for social media. This is why we do the square, the vertical and the horizontal format, because if we are designing a horizontal graphic card, let's say, well, it takes 2 more minutes, literally, to make the other 2 versions, because we're going to need them anyway. So it's better to invest those couple of extra minutes, because now we can cross post across many platforms and the job is more complete. I think we post to something like 17 or 18 different platforms now for various reasons, and we've literally started with one piece of content, and that is a live stream video, and from there we then churn out our content. Content type. So again, I mentioned briefly earlier how you need to think about your content type depending on the platform that you're going on and who your audience is. So for example, if a particular platform or audience that you are thinking of engage better with video, of course you need to make more video. But if they're more likely to read an article, let's say a blog, and that's where they prefer to find their information, then of course think about blogs. So it's really important to think about where you're going to focus your energy and invest time and money to create the right content for your particular audience. And then it comes down to planning, which I did talk about. So for example, this is just a screenshot of I forget now, it's January or February. It's faded out because when you tick the tasks as they are ticked here, it means that all of these items have been published. This is a month view, basically, almost, pretty much. I think the top's chopped off. You can see the number of different items that have been posted by us, and you can see the different colours all mean something. So for us, yellow means a blog, red means a video, purple means a social media type shorter video, blues means graphics. There's a whole amount of content that is being collated together on a regular basis. That's something I missed off of my little list, and that is consistency. This is not about, oh, I think I'll start posting to social media, I'm not feeling so busy this week, and then you go quiet again. That's a real one-hit wonder approach. Whereas when you consistently are posting, when you need to create something more urgently and you've got a more urgent message you're trying to get out there, it is so much easier because your social media will already have momentum and some dynamism to it. So it will already be ready because you will have followers that can then hook into your urgent message. But if you go in, let's say you've done 0 up till now, and then today you decide something urgent needs to get out and sell, you're probably not going to get very far. So this is why it's really important to think about how you're going to plan your content. Now, of course, not everyone is working perhaps as intensely as this. It is partly our day job, so of course we are working with content quite intensely. But you can literally start with a calendar or a diary, and literally, if you prefer pen and paper, draw up your month and just give everything a title so that you know what's going in when. For example, if you know that there's a big event that is key to your particular business, let's say the 22nd, mark that in so that you can see that that's an important date. And then you can say, well, in that case, I definitely need to make sure that my content has been scheduled in the right time frames to actually maximize the impact of those posts. Like I say, timeliness is really, really important. It's very, very difficult to work out your timelines if you do them on a really ad hoc basis, on a daily or even a weekly basis. You really need to have that bird's eye view of how your strategy is going. So for us, the reason we also use Asana is that it's very easy. We don't just look at this month as a snapshot. If I was to scroll, I'm obviously not in there at the moment, I can actually park this midway through the month to see how the following month is going. Because let's face it, our posting habits are not defined by a month. It's a very convenient way of measuring what we're doing and how much work we have done, but in reality it's a continuum. There's always this rolling posting, scheduling habits going on, so you need to be able to see how your strategy is actually panning out to the world. So let's have a little look at content creation. So as I already said, you can look at different ways of creating your content. It might be using things like Canva, Photoshop, graphic designers. You may have some skill sets. Video editors, you can find some very reasonable video editors who are on various you can find somebody even on Upwork if you wanted to, who can just help you out and get some good videos that are ideal for social media, quite a reasonable investment. You don't have to spend a lot of money. I would really encourage you to think about, always making sure your logo's on there, making sure if you can, you get your headshot on there. Get these done professionally so that they stay true to your brand and that they look professional. And think about your content. Another one that I think people often overlook the value of is content creation in terms of copywriting. So again, I've got a lovely copywriter who deals with all our outputs now, and also looking after our client work. But also, if we need to, there are other tools that we also use for copywriting. It is impossible to write consistently and well, it's not everybody's bag, for yourself, because you tend to start using the same kind of language, and it might not actually be the right language that your audience wants to hear. Now, I know in the copywriting world and social media in particular, I saw a discussion of that how can you have your true authentic voice if it's not you doing your own copywriting? Well, perhaps there will always be an element of that, but it boils down to, as a business, you can't do everything yourself. And actually a good copywriter, a great copywriter, will have a great understanding about your message. They will have done their research. Hopefully you as a business owner will have helped them in understanding what your message is and what your style is and who you're trying to reach, so that you can then craft that message together and make sure that you are talking to the audience that you want to encourage in the right way. So I really would say, think about employing the services of a copywriter, because their work is invaluable for getting your message out consistently. And finally, organize. So as I said, for us, that is using pretty much Google G Drive for organizing all our folders and making sure all the content goes into those folders. Asana allows us to track every single job and keep track on what's been completed, what needs to be completed. It also allows us to make sure that our scheduling stays on target and to the deadlines that we have given to everybody. Asana also allows us to work across many individuals, across many teams, should we wish to. So between all of that, it really does boil down to being organised. And one of the things I often do get asked, and I know I've talked about this before on these live streams, is how do I get so many things done? One is being organised, and two, I've got to say, having great support mechanisms in place. I know that my teams, whatever I need them to do, they are going to be able to, do what I need them to do on time. They get it, they understand what I've asked for. For example, this morning there was something that would have taken me probably 10 minutes to get done. Because it would only take 10 minutes to get done, the temptation is to say, I'll just do it myself. But actually, I delegated it. It was because I didn't actually have those 10 minutes this morning. And I said, you know what, can I just give this to you? Here's the folder, here's the job. This is what needs to be done. Let me have it back. And by the time I'd finished doing some of the other things, I had a big meeting as well this morning. By the time I'd done all those things, that item was ready for me. So it's really important that if you're organised yourself, it actually makes it much easier to pass things over to other people so that they can then help you stay organised. And with that, I think we come to the end of today's slides. I hope you've enjoyed the topic that I've covered. If you're expecting to see a tutorial on how to use something like Canva, I hope you weren't too disappointed, because actually before you go anywhere near something like that, you actually need to be thinking about the strategy and organising yourselves. As you know, I like to always do a little bit of a motivation tip, and the one that came up today for me was I focus on solutions and always find the best one. And I hope that, sometimes when we face challenges in our business, sometimes we have to take the difficult route to achieve something, but actually we know that we're willing to go through that difficulty because it's probably the best outcome. And we could take the lazy route, but it's not going to give us the best outcome, the best result. So that, I would say, just have a little think of how that sits with you. Let's have a quick look to see if there are any comments or anything that I need to react to. No, we're all good, I think. And so with that, I wish you a very good weekend. I hope you have a good one and that you manage to work on your business as much as you have all week in your business. And I will be back again next week with another topic, and I do hope you'll join me again. Thank you very much.